Chris Lynch News with Airpark Canterbury, saving you money on airport parking without compromising on quality. Book now at airparkcanterbury.co.nz.
Christchurch Mayor Phil Major, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, good to see you again, Chris, and it was very good to see you at the Affirm Gala the other day at Hampshire Street. It was a wonderful day.
Yeah, wasn't it an amazing day, and lots of people there, and thankfully the weather turned nice. Right, let's get to the rate increases. Now, Phil, you campaigned hard to keep rates at the rate of inflation. So what do you say to the people of Christchurch who may claim that you've broken your promise?
Yeah, one of the things that we've got, what's going out as far as the rates at the moment, we're just putting out a draft long-term plan. Now, people will have their say in March, I think, February, March, and if they're not happy with it, they can come back and say, oh, we don't want all this extra stuff, take it off, and the rates will go lower. But it's just that is not a set and concrete number. It's just we've got to make a start to get it out there for people to consult on.
So your start at the moment is about 13%, right?
Roger.
Why not start it at the cost of inflation then? Why not be that start? I mean, it's all very well to have your wish lists and all that sort of stuff, but why not start right at the cost of inflation? Aren't you going to be more on side with the public then, and aren't you going to then speed up the process without people wanting everything from the council?
Yeah, correct. One of the things that we have got an issue with is the stadium is now marching into our costs. 3.1% of the cost of those rates is the stadium bit. And as you know, 32,000 people said we really want it. So we're going to put it in the rates as a separate line so people can say, well, out of that 13, say it is, if that's what it is, and it won't be, 3% of that is for the stadium. So that people will digest that bit. And then down the bottom, we've got our insurance costs have gone up 130% since last year. Just for that thing. It's terrible everywhere. So we're in the gun like a lot of people. And as I said, I might have said to you, we're borrowing a shed load of dough, and the interest rates have gone from probably about 2.5% to 6%. That's for us as well, because we could borrow it a lot cheaper. But now we're paying the price. It's as Wayne Brown said, the chickens have come home to roost. So we've got a lot of grief coming our way.
But what do you say to ratepayers on fixed incomes, though?
Yeah, well, this is one of the things that all the councillors want to get it down. We've got to be realistic, because we're in a cost of living crisis, and I'm pretty confident we are not at the end. It's all very well the new government's coming and everyone thinks money's going to rain out of the sky. That ain't going to happen. We're in the gun for another few years yet, so we've really got to get it down. But that 13% one that's going out is the starting point, and we'll be working on getting it down.
Mr Mayor, do all councillors support the need to keep rates as low as possible, or have you got some trouble with some who just think that money is going to drop from the sky?
I wouldn't say trouble with some, but some think that we should have probably had rates higher in the past, and then we wouldn't have to have this jump now. So it's a mix and match thing, but we'll come out of it in the end.
Are you actually discussing a regional rate for the likes of the stadium? Is that on the cards at all?
We are talking to our neighbours. Fair to say they're not bristling with enthusiasm, I would say. I actually think, this is my personal view, I think we should build it and get money off them to help us run it for the OPEX. That would be a better way, I think.
So the likes of Waimakariri or Selwyn, they haven't actually said, yep, put up our hands, we'll help pay for it yet? Our staff are talking to their staff, and they're saying how's about it, and we're certainly doing the talking, but there's been no positive steps yet, but we're working on it. Well, in that case, we shouldn't be calling it a Canterbury stadium, should we? It should be a Christchurch stadium. I know the whole point was to try and, it feels like that was a strategic thing from the council to try and ensure that perhaps people from the regions pay for it. But if they're not going to, maybe we charge them some more money at the door. Let's see your visa, let's see your passport.
Yeah, especially when you've come over the Waimak River. You come from overseas, really, don't you?
So what are we going to do then? Because, obviously, it comes as no surprise that there's going to be a rate increase and that the stadium plays a massive part in that, though. Can we put a date on discussions with, you have a mayoral forum, don't you, where you speak to all the mayors around Canterbury? Have they indicated that they're lukewarm on it, or they don't want it? Or, what's the general gist of what you're hearing from them?
The general gist is that they're not saying bugger off, right? They're saying come and talk to us. So it's that they're certainly not saying yes, but we've got to do some work with them to see what we can come up with.
Any ideas on what? Yeah.
said, take the likes of the Canterbury Museum. That is rated for all of Canterbury. The further away from Christchurch you go, take the likes of Hiranui, they do pay towards the museum, but it's a very small number the further away from centre of town. If we had a similar thing to that, that's the museum out of Canterbury gets $10 million a year. So if we did the same thing, like up in Hiranui, I think it's only 29 cents a month or something like that. It's nothing. But if you spread it over a lot of people, it becomes affordable.
Canterbury Food Bank, you would have seen the news by now that we broke here on Christchurch Media, closing just 3 days before Christmas. This was always on the cards, as we've briefly spoken before, but you've got to ask yourself, is that acceptable before Christmas? And I know the reason being, one of the reasons, of course, is the fact that the council was not prepared to provide ongoing funding because they were then going to be charging what do they call it, like a service fee, which is not part of how the council decides to fund things, which is completely understandable. But this is one of the biggest food banks, in fact, in New Zealand. It's shutting up shop. It seems like a real shame, Phil.
It is a shame, but don't forget there will be other food banks that will take up the slack. There's I wouldn't say there's a myriad of them, but there are a lot of them around. So the food that Food Bank Canterbury were getting will not go to waste. It will go to another organisation. It will still be moved around. So I've got no problem with it.
Okay. When is this organics processing plant moving to Hornby? Or being established, I should say. It's not really moving, is it? But when's it being established, and when can we give a reprieve to the good people in Bromley?
We voted on this yesterday. Just to be sure, it is not in any shape or form the same as what's down in Bromley.
It's very different. Yeah, it's very fancy sounding, state-of-the-art, enclosed. That's a good start.
Yeah, totally enclosed. And the good thing about it is some of our staff, and we are going to send a few representatives of the community up to have a look at the one in Reparoa so they can see it for themselves, that it works as well. It's not sometimes when people say to you, this is too good to be true, that's when you start getting worried, but it is. But we've got to send people up there, not heaps, but enough people up there so they can go back to their residents and say, we're on the right track.
Obviously, it's going to be quite an expensive task. Will this affect rates in any way?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, it's been built by someone else, and they will more or less they will charge the same as what we're paying at the moment for the people who are doing it at the moment. So there's no extra charge.
This is our last chat before Christmas. I can't believe we're even discussing Christmas, but 7th of December. When you look back on the year that's been, Phil, let's just to have a bit of a year in review, if you like. What are you most proud of? Let's start with the positives first. What are you most proud of what you personally as Mayor of Christchurch have achieved in 2023?
Getting my head around it for a start, to think that I remember when Leanne said to me, if you're thinking of running for mayor, it is one hell of a lot more work, and it certainly is. It's taken a long time for me to get my head around it. Going out and seeing the staff out at the ranges, the libraries, the community centres, doing like that, and working hard to try and get morale up. And we have had a few changes at the top of the tree in the last month. It's been actually a very busy month. So that's kept me busy.
What has frustrated you the most in 2023?
Getting my head round process. Like I might have said to you, in my old job, I used to go home in the car and have a board meeting in the car with myself, and it was either good or bad or otherwise. But now I've got to use process to get the same thing, and I've got there's extremely good people around me who advise me on how to get the best out of the system and use the system properly, rather than going off half-cocked, for want of a better word.
But do you think that sometimes that process is just an excuse for people to have jobs?
No, at the moment we've got 230 vacancies in this building, and whether we go forward and fill all those, or as part of our long-term plan, we might not carry those vacancies, because believe it or not, those vacancies get pay increases, even though the person doesn't exist. It's just a paper.
What? 230 vacancies?
Yes, 230 positions that are not filled here in this building. Mm-hmm.
I have to go. Are they on the council website? I might apply. That sounds like a lot of vacancies.
Well, as people have left and things have changed, we haven't replaced, because we want to try and cut our costs. A lot of people have, some of the areas in here are extremely stretched in some areas, so they need to. We can't cut them down to nothing. We let them fill their vacancies up. But there are other places that the vacancies are still vacant, for want of a better word.
As a result of the so-called cost of living crisis and the fact that we are facing a 13% rate increase, is that something that we need to look at? Can you go back to your HR department and say, we're not filling these vacancies, we need to work within the means that we have now? Unless, of course, you're talking about, look, I suppose it's easy for me to sit here and say that. I suppose it's probably, jobs for those who work at the swimming pools and, jobs that actually you do require, lifesavers and those sorts of roles too, I suppose. Is that...
You've got to have that, but there are positions in the council that, as I say, are vacant, and we've got away with them for the 6 months. Do we need to fill them? So if everyone's doing their work and we're getting there. But you are right as far as swimming pools, lifeguards, librarians.
Well, actually, this leads to the other point, I suppose, is how are things going? Where are we at with trying to find a new boss for the Christchurch City Council and a new, finance manager?
CFO. Yeah. We're just trying to slow it down a little bit. There's no use. It's just so close to Christmas. There's no use running around like a headless chook. Let's just calm the farm and start into it sort of last week in January, because CEOs just don't queue up at the door, even though you read the paper and you think they are. They don't queue up at the door. You go through a process and get the right one.
Let's just quickly speculate. Have you got any thoughts on, or have you had any thoughts on who you think might replace Dawn Baxendale or might make a good CEO for council?
No, not really, not yet. I've been up to my neck in it with the OPP decisions and LTP. LTP is our main focus. We've got to get that across the line, because if we don't get it out, that's when the government can come along and say, why aren't you doing your job properly? So right. There is I haven't got anyone in mind that I think should be CE. We will go out and recruitment companies will come at us with a handful of people, and I'm sure we'll make a good decision.
I'll sit on the panel. Can I sit on the panel discussion and make those decisions with you?
Feel free. Yeah.
No, I couldn't think of anything worse. Before you go, Phil, any Christmas messages to the good people of Christchurch? Just
what we've got is over the Christmas break, we've got a hell of a lot of things coming to Christchurch early in the new year. We've got what have we got? We've got Bread and Circus coming. We've got Foo Fighters. We've got Super Sprint at Ruapuna happening very early next year. We've got Electric Avenue coming back, which was a fantastic thing. We've got Crankworks up at the Adventure Park. So if you think you're good at riding a bike down a hill, go and see someone who is very good at it and raise your game. We've got the Black Caps from Australia. And, of course, we've got a lot of things that the council are doing for free over Christmas. We've got New Year's in the park for kids up until 7 o'clock at night, 4 to 7, and then they go home. The big kids come and they do the proper one for New Year's. We've got Mitre 10 Sparks in the park, Summit Sundays at the Botanical Gardens, Kite Day out at Brighton. You don't need your kite. If you haven't got one, you can buy one on the day. So there's lots of that, and they're all free, those ones, those second lot that I've got. So there's a lot happening. So stay in Christchurch and enjoy it. But the main thing is be safe, be happy, and look after yourself.
Merry Christmas, Phil. Thanks so much for your time and support on this platform this year. Have a great break.
You too, Chris. See you around.